welcome to our September noon Zoom. I'm struggling to believe that it's September. I mean, if you've seen any of my promotions for today's noon Zoom, I keep referring to this as August, so I'm definitely in denial. And I have no idea how I'm in denial, though, because my teeny executive assistant, Emerson, started school this month. And of all the parenting things people tell you, no one tells you how busy you get when your child starts school. I was like, oh, I have all this time. It'll be so great. I'll get all this work done. And that's true. But nobody tells you that you add dozens of things to your calendar in addition. So for all of you parents, grandparents, educators, I tip my hat to you because it really does take a village. So I'm so excited for today that we have Valarie Wafer with us, and I'll introduce her in just a few minutes. But to start out, I want to highlight a shared community contribution done by our Area 7 clubs. For those of you who don't know, Area 7 encompasses the westernmost portion of our district in Genesee County, Michigan, or the Flint area, which is the area that I also come from. One of the largest events in this area is the Crim Festival of Races, which it's a series of road races, and it culminates in a 10-mile race that brings together runners and walkers from all over the world. And if you've never seen the event, I highly recommend it. The energy from the athletes and the community, it's really unlike anything I had ever experienced up to that point. One of the most infamous parts of the race is called the Bradley Hills, and they're steep hills right around the 5-mile mark of the route. But for me, the most difficult part of the race is around mile 7, when you're so close to the finish. In fact, when you turn the corner, you can see where you're going, but it's so far away. And luckily, the Rotary Club of Greater Flint Sunrise has a water station at the 7-mile mark. And since that's my home club, seeing those familiar faces always gave me a little extra pep in my step to finish out the race. So I am going to introduce Club President Doug Stoddard to share a little bit about the Rotary Club of Greater Flint Sunrise's involvement in the event. Take it away, Doug. I can't hear you for some reason. Tell you what, I'm going to switch it around, Doug. Feel free to keep trying to get your volume moving, and I am going to actually move on to introducing Mike Chaffee, who, as you know, I think you all know, is our district governor-elect. And at about the 6-mile mark of the Crim route, you enter a neighborhood where I'm convinced you never stop going up a slow, steady hill. Forget the steep hills. It's those gradual hills that really kick your butt. But our lovely district governor-elect lives right at the start of that 6th mile. So I want him to share with all of you about the Rotary Mile and the involvement of the Area 7 clubs in that. Go right ahead, Mike.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. August the 28th was the 44th annual running of the Crim, and we saw 34 Rotarians from 4 Rotary clubs support the Rotary Mile during the 10-mile segment of the Crim Festival of Races. This is our second year coordinating the traffic control in the Woodcroft Estates neighborhood between mile markers 6 and 7. And Erin alluded to the Greater Flint Sunrise Club has been manning that water station at mile marker 7 for a number of years. Our day started off with breakfast at 5:45 in the morning before sending our traffic crews out to their assigned intersections. As you can see by the banner, was a great branding opportunity for the Rotary, and probably the biggest highlight of the day outside of the breakfast was the Bloody Mary costume that I happened to wear, that got about 40 different photographs with people throughout the day. So it was a great time. A great opportunity for Rotary branding. A lot of thumbs up when people saw the Rotarians at the intersections. So we're looking forward to even expanding it next year and getting more of the Genesee County Rotary clubs involved. So Erin, that's our report for the Rotary Mile, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Mike. So I apologize. Apparently everybody could hear Doug except for me. So Doug, go right ahead and finish what you started. I apologize.
What I was going to say is the Crim started, I believe this was their 44th year. And I've been a member of Greater Flint Sunrise for 21 years. And we were working the water station when I joined. So I can't exactly tell you how long it's been going, but at least 21 years we've been working at the 7 mile mark. And as Erin alluded to, after coming through the Bradley Hills, water is a precious commodity, if you will, to many of these runners and walkers, and they are highly appreciative of us being there to support them with some liquid refreshment. Oftentimes we'll get asked if we have anything other than water, and I always thought they were looking for alcohol, but apparently they were looking for Gatorade as well. We do not do that. It's strictly water. It has been a very successful thing for our club. We're 26 members currently, and on average, we probably have right around 17 people that participate from one year to the next. And honestly, it takes that whole group to really keep up when the runners come through. I don't remember what the numbers were this year, but I mean, it's several thousand runners that participate in this. So, like I say, when they come through in mass, it's quite a sight to see one, and also quite a effort to keep up. It's been a great opportunity for us to kind of tout Rotary. We do put Rotary signs and banners along just before the water station, and like I said, most of the people go out of their way to tell us thank you for being there and supporting them and cheering for them and carrying on. It really does make a big difference when you're gasping for your last breath, so to speak, after going through the hills, when you've got people cheering you on and telling you you're almost there. I'm not a runner, so having 3 miles left to go would be a daunting task for me. But for many of these people, it's they're just hitting their stride at that point. So I don't have any pictures of me dressed up as a cocktail, so I'll just be done at this point. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doug. Yeah, when you mentioned about the beverages other than water, I kind of thought you were referring to Mike in the Bloody Mary costume, but that's a different part of the race, I think. Again, if you've all never been there, it's a fantastic time. So I appreciate Doug and Mike sharing with us today. So moving forward with these noon Zooms, I really would like to continue highlighting the ways that our district Rotary clubs collaborate in the community. So if there are things you have to share, please let me know. I would love to be able to highlight you and have you share pictures or videos or whatever it is that you feel is important for all of us as a district and throughout the Rotary community to know. So now it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Valarie Wafer. If you have questions for her at any point throughout her conversation or afterwards, please feel free to ask them in the question and answer section of this webinar. We'll have time at the end for some answers. So Valarie joined Rotary in 2005 in order to fuel her passion for making an impact that matters. Valarie was district governor of Rotary International District 7070, covering the Greater Toronto area in 2013-2014. She now resides in Thornbury. Her home club is the Rotary Club of Collingwood, South Georgian Bay in District 7010. Valarie's journey as a Rotarian has involved a number of international roles. She's an international trainer, a member of the host organizing committee for the Toronto 2018 Rotary International Convention. She has represented Rotary International presidents in the US, Norway, and Nigeria. Currently, she is an elected member of the Rotary International Board of Directors for 2020 through 2022. During Valarie's tenure as a Rotarian, she has engaged in and led many initiatives, including a mission to Kosovo with Gift of Life International. She was the vocational training team leader to Australia in 2010, focusing on youth mental health, a national immunization day in India in 2012, and has traveled to Kenya and Tanzania to audit long-term Rotary Foundation grant activity. In her non-Rotary life, Valarie had a 27-year career as the owner of 14 restaurants in Toronto. The brand, as many of you may know, Tim Hortons, is the most recognized and iconic franchise in Canada. The Wafers operation was best known for its inclusive hiring practices and accessibility. As the chair of the Rotary International Global DEI Task Force, Valarie brings a strong background of learned and lived experience to this important topic. Valarie and her husband of 35 years, Mark, are Paul Harris Fellows, Bequest Society members, and major donors to the Rotary Foundation. Please join me in welcoming Valarie.
Thank you so much, District Governor Erin, for that amazing introduction. And it is such a pleasure to see Erin as District Governor. I met Erin, I believe, when I was District Governor, and I was speaking at PETS in 6330. And her little daughter was very, I can't believe she's going to school now, Erin. That's incredible.
I know, let me see if I can.
Oh my.
We're having sushi for lunch. We're very international here in our household.
She's cute as a button, and I am so proud to see you as District Governor of District 6330.
Thanks.
And what a great opportunity to highlight some of the projects that are going on, because I really think that in this time, we don't always know what's happening in our community. So well done on the Crim Festival of Races. And District Governor-elect Mike, that Bloody Mary costume is like above service above self. Well done, and truly an indication of how engaged you are as a Rotarian. And you know, many of us love to have that kind of fun. So well done with that. Hello, District 6330 Rotarians, Rotaractors, and guests. And congratulations not only on the format of these and sharing, but the noon Zoom meetings I know have been going on for the last year during COVID. And thank you so much for the invitation to be with you today and the great success of these meetings. It's so important that we continue to join in Rotary and in fellowship in this way. And as we are able to get out and about a little bit more, it's just so wonderful to actually have that human connection a little bit again. So, you know, this year more than ever, we need to hold on tight to these opportunities to be together. It's so important to be able to share, to laugh, and to sometimes comfort each other through this challenging time in our history. And it's so important that we know that we're there for each other, and that our Rotary family has never been so important to us, so dear in our life, because this year has taught us a lot of things. And it's really taught us how to be kind and how to listen, and really how to reflect on what's important in our lives and in the lives of others. And I couldn't be more proud to be a Rotarian today, because we have stepped up, and we have stepped up in a huge capacity to recognize what is needed in our community and to support each other, as I mentioned. And it's also been this really unique opportunity to be able to travel the world virtually, of course. Our global membership has allowed us to virtually stay connected and connect with new friends. And, you know, I've had the opportunity to speak all over the world from the comfort of this room. And it's not unusual for me to be in India in the morning, Bangladesh, Hong Kong over the weekends, and just incredible to make new friends and to connect and to share some key messages, and to hear from other inspiring speakers. It's incredible to realize that by just a few key computer strokes, We've added stamps to our virtual passport and been able to travel the world. But in the midst of this global pandemic, we can't forget the need to take care of our own health, all aspects of it. Because let's face it, navigating this new normal isn't easy. And whether it's struggling to get your children, as Erin is, to engage with online learning, or sending them back to school in this last week, working from home all day long, or being cut off, physically at least, from loved ones for an extended period of time. And we've discovered, sometimes the hard way, and I know I can really relate to this, how important it is to take care of ourselves during this time. Finding that balance to being available 24/7, but putting yourself first, and being mindful to take care of physical, mental, and emotional well-being. If we don't take care of ourselves, we can't be our best. And when we put our best foot forward, we know that everyone wins. Self-care is so important to maintain a healthy relationship with yourself, because it produces positive feelings and it boosts our confidence and our self-esteem. And we know that we can't provide energetic and inspiring support as a leader if we don't first ensure to take care of ourselves. And taking care of ourselves is the most powerful way to take care of others. It's what I call, it's the gift that keeps on giving, right? Because when we take care of each other, it leads to our own self-care and our own happiness, and everyone benefits. We make an impact and in turn gain empathy, satisfaction, and a sense of well-being that we helped humanity. In fact, history tells us that we may not have survived as a species if we didn't help each other out. And on that note, taking care of oneself, both physically and mentally, can take many forms. One of those, one in particular, I'd like to discuss with you, is how service and altruism can have a positive effect on our mindset and our self-care. Service and altruism make us better people. Altruism is the unselfish concern for other people, doing things simply out of a desire to help, not because you feel obligated to or out of a sense of duty or loyalty. It's the act of concern for the well-being of other people. I really think that describes us in Rotary, because we give and we do all without the expectation of reward. It really is service above self. And we each have different ways that we can serve. And this pandemic has shown us more than ever, our local, regional, and global communities need our service. What a wonderful chance for us to share our personal narrative, to tell our stories. These stories help us create more altruistic behavior, because when we hear a transformational story that influenced and changed a person, we are inspired, and in some cases, we are challenged to be a better version of ourselves. It is powerful to think of the change that we can make in the world collectively. It's a true form of peace building, putting others before ourselves, lending a hand to those less fortunate. Hand up, not a handout, as I know you practice in District 6330 with your international service work. So tell your story. I joined Rotary to get to know my local community, to give back in a meaningful way. I wasn't thinking globally, and I had no idea of the scope of Rotary's work, what polio was, or that it still existed. Because I was a child after the first vaccinations were available and administered in Canada. My childhood did not have restrictions that others 10 years older than me had. I learned of polio as a new Rotarian. And in 2012, I found myself traveling to India on a national immunization day. There I was, standing on a dusty corner in a small village. The traffic and the constant sound of horns and buses coming and going dozens of street vendors, and the ever popular tuk-tuk taxis. I was wearing that yellow Rotary vest with the Rotary wheel. And to the locals, that wheel was very well known, very recognizable, known to represent trust, partnership in health, and in service. I just want to take a moment to call out my friend Tom Telfer, who's on this call, I believe. And Tom was with me and my husband Mark on that trip. So while we were there and while we were doing our National Immunization Day activities, many children stopped by that day at our makeshift booth. Some proudly holding up their purple pinky to show us they had already received their drops. They were waving and smiling, and they were so excited to see us. Others being brought by their siblings. Some not much older than the children we were immunizing. Hand in hand, they arrived, ensuring that their brothers and sisters had the same chance as them to a healthy future. When a young mother approached me and handed me her 4-week-old baby, I was taken aback. And immediately there were tears in my eyes. She trusted me, a white woman from Canada, to administer those drops that would ensure her newborn girl would not be crippled by this terrible disease called polio. Why did she trust me? It obviously wasn't me personally. She didn't know me. In fact, it was the first time she had ever seen me. Yet she handed me her precious new baby. As I said, it obviously wasn't me. She trusted the Rotarians. She trusted that yellow vest with the Rotary wheel emblazoned on the back and all that it stood for. And it became clear that my role wasn't just to administer the drops. The local Rotarians had been doing that for years. In fact, it was that very visit when India was declared polio-free. Our role was to tell these stories, to be an advocate and create and inspire altruistic behavior in others. While in India, I also witnessed the service and dedication of the Indian Rotarians who worked tirelessly to rid their country of polio, to rehabilitate those afflicted, and provide prosthetics and surgeries to correct the affected limbs, to give people dignity. Dignity to be able to walk down the aisle to get married next month. Dignity to walk into a workplace to apply for a job. Dignity to wear 2 shoes on your feet and not on your hands as a crawler. It wasn't just about giving those drops. It was so much more. That was a life-altering experience. I was truly inspired, and it definitely challenged me to be a better version of myself. A version to continue to give back. A version to continue to lead. A version to continue to learn, and a version to continue to inspire. You don't have to have had a National Immunization Day experience or have visited an international service project to have a story to tell. We each have a story of how we've made a difference to someone and how that in turn made a difference to ourselves. It may be volunteering in that food bank, reading to seniors, and in turn, hearing a story of their life experience, or mentoring tomorrow's leaders. Each time we wear our Rotary pin and go out into the community, we inspire, and we are inspired. Our vision statement encapsulates this. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. To me, that's key, in ourselves. Having the opportunity and privilege to make a difference and take care of each other leads to a heightened degree of self-care, self-awareness, and self-enlightenment. Many of us, myself included, have stated that I could never give back to Rotary what Rotary has given to me. Today is a gift. How will we use it? We change lives in Rotary. Our work is essential and critical so that more lives can be saved. I often say what we do every day as Rotarians is not normal. It's incredibly transformational. Each and every day, with every life we save, with every mind we educate, with every attempt at peace, we are transforming lives. Rotary adds a richness to our life, a richness that is not measured in dollars, but in the tangible benefit that we deliver to others and the personal joy and fulfillment derived from collaborating with good, honest, successful people for the purpose of serving others. And in the process, we get the additional benefit of fellowship with people who believe in honest, ethical business, fairness, friendship, and mutual respect. Our history in Rotary is envious, and it's a daunting challenge to live up to the legacy that our founding members left us. It will take all of the imagination, dedication, commitment, and effort that we can muster to recruit members who can help us live up to the challenge and to provide them the leadership and encouragement to do so. This year, President Shaker has challenged each of us to do more and grow more, to come together to make membership growth a personal responsibility with a vision of increasing our membership to 1.3 million by July 1st, 2022. Now, this may seem like a stretch goal, but without goals, we may fail to act and make it a priority. A priority to attract more young, more female, and more Rotaract members. To lead by example, and each one bring one. Strong and vibrant clubs ensure better retention and increased service to our communities. The one thing we know is that the world has shrunk during this pandemic, and our imagination and innovation has provided opportunities to explore and reimagine our own personal Rotary experience and what that might look like. We've seen the chartering of cause-based clubs with a concentrated value of serving others, such as the homeless in our communities, victims of human trafficking, serving veterans, and educating through literacy programs. We have become more inclusive at a faster pace due to technology and accessibility. And we have put an emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion, recognizing that individuals from certain groups have historically experienced barriers to membership or have simply not been asked to join Rotary. If we dream big, we will have a bigger impact by serving the world. Service above self is thinking of others before we think of ourselves. Each of you may have found your opportunity to serve, small or large. More than the size is the value we bring. Small, meaningful service brings value to others and a large value to us as we serve to change lives. I truly believe that we'll be a stronger, more relevant organization on the other side of this pandemic, and the world will look to Rotary to continue to do good in the world. And I know we're ready because we're people of action and we are ready. So thank you for all that you're doing to serve in Rotary. Thank you for being a leader this last year and in the years to come. We are changing the world. You are changing the world, and you have opened opportunities for many. So let's continue to serve to change lives. But remember to take care of yourself so that you're there for each other. Thank you so much for asking me to be with you today, and I am really happy to answer any questions and just continue this conversation.
Thanks, Valarie. Thanks so much for being with us. If you have any questions, please feel free to add them into the question and answer section, or you can put them in the chat. We do have a first question. First of all, very inspirational, Valarie. how can very small clubs forward the cause of Rotary in this world?
Wow, one of the things that I find really exciting is that we have this opportunity to really reconnect with our members and ask our members what they want their Rotary experience to look like. And I think that we have, large clubs that have, structure and committees and really have a view to how they can help out the community. But I think we have a really great opportunity with our small clubs as well. Our small clubs in our communities really know our communities. They know the members, they know the demographics, they see what's going on. They see, the unfortunate position of small and medium-sized businesses through the pandemic. Many of us are business owners ourselves, so we really understand what happens when we have to constantly shut down due to social distancing and where we are in the pandemic. So I think it's our opportunity to reach out to our community, but also to have that conversation, that crucial conversation with our members. And really, it doesn't have to be structured. It doesn't have to have the word strategic plan around it or visioning, but just really, I call it a white paper exercise. Have everyone just take a blank sheet of paper and design what their Rotary experience wants to look like and how they want to serve the community. I just think it's a great opportunity for us to refocus and have that conversation. And it might be around diversity, equity, and inclusion as well. Who is missing? Who's missing from our clubs? And maybe this is the opportunity to reach out to them. But first of all, I always say it's important that we understand each other before we reach out to our community. So I think we have, this great opportunity of not necessarily concentrating on our Rotary club and being a club, but more our Rotary experience and what we want that to look like going forward and what our members value and that whole value proposition. We're so good at advertising our product. We're not always so good. We're good at selling. We're not so good at following through and ensuring that we have that customer service. So I think taking care of each other in our smaller clubs and in our larger clubs is a great opportunity for us as we come out of the pandemic.
Thanks, Valarie. So a comment and then a question. Your presentation was first class, great presentation. And the question is, how important is it for Rotary clubs to acknowledge the use of traditional Indigenous lands at the beginning of our meetings?
Well, I think that it's very important to recognize where we are and our current situation. I think we need to, in order to move forward, we need to reconcile our past and some of our history. I think that that's true of everything in diversity, equity, and inclusion. As I said, we need to understand who we are. We need to listen to personal experience and lived experience. I can speak as a woman. I can't speak as a Black person or a person from the LGBTQ community. I think we have a lot to learn if we listen and we're willing to and open. And I think the land acknowledgement is a really great first step in recognizing our history and acknowledging that we weren't the first on these lands, and that and we need to really reconcile our past in order to move forward. I think it's really important to reach out to our Indigenous communities, as well as all of our marginalized communities, our underrepresented communities, and hear their story. It's how we learn. It's that educational component that I think is really necessary.
Thank you. So I don't know if you can see the chat, but immediate past district governor David Elliott has commented, "It was great seeing and hearing you again. You're inspirational always." And it is David that, of course, we have to thank for these noon Zooms. He did such a fantastic job of setting them up last year. In the midst of all of this, listening to you talk about where you've been all over the world, but you haven't left, that's pretty fantastic. So we are very appreciative of some of these virtual opportunities that we've gotten. Oddly enough, and Valarie and I did not talk about this ahead of time, but you mentioned 3 things today that I think is really funny. The first one was about mental health, which I have a question about that in a second. But last month's speaker actually spoke to mental health. And so that was obviously very timely right now with everything we have going on. But I thought that was a great connection. And then actually next month we have Todd Bowtie Jenkins talking about DEI. So another great connection. We've sandwiched you right in the middle. It's fantastic. And the third thing you talked about is about removing barriers. And that's one of the priorities we have as a district this year, is how we can remove barriers. In all of your meetings and your visits and your conversations, are there any interesting or unique ways that you've seen other clubs removing barriers?
So, you know, it's interesting because when we talk about inclusion and equity, and you know, even when we think about it in our corporations, policy plays a part, but policy doesn't change culture. But I think when we look to removing barriers, sometimes that policy piece is quite important. And so, you know, it's about educating our members. It's about learning and recognizing our own personal biases. But it's also, there are barriers to leadership. You know, when we launched the DEI survey from the DEI task force, and we did it globally, it was the first time we were able to ask about Rotary Club experience, and also asking some demographic and ethnicity questions as well. But a lot of the questions were around, do you feel you have an equitable opportunity to leadership? And of course, overwhelmingly, we heard specifically from women members and younger Rotarians that some of the barriers that we have to leadership opportunities are based on tenure. You have to be in Rotary for 7 years before you can apply to be district governor, then 3 more years have to pass before you can put your name forward as a director. And so, you know, we each bring amazing leadership and skill sets from our corporate environment, and we're really not offering an equitable chance to leadership if we, you know, base our opportunities just on tenure. So when I talk about policy, I think it is also important that we take a look at our bylaws and our practices in our clubs and districts to provide that equitable opportunity to leadership. And so I think we need to look at some of our processes. One of the things I talk about a lot is I'll talk about my own personal experience in my district. When I became district governor, the panel that interviewed district governors was made up of the sitting governor and the past 4 or 5 district governors. So if we think about the fact we haven't had a lot of women in leadership positions, chances are back then in 2013-14, when I was governor, it was going to be a panel of older gentlemen, which it was. And the thing with, you know, having an interview panel for any position, even if it's our scholarship opportunities, our Peace Fellows, is when we look in the mirror, we're only ever going to see what we've always seen. And so we're not opening our minds and opening up our biases really to promote a leader that doesn't look like us. And when we have the same expectations that we've had historically, and Erin, you're a perfect example of it. You know, you're working, you're a young mother. And so I applaud your district in knowing and seeing your leadership capabilities, and not saying, oh, you have to be retired, or you have to, you know, have this amount of disposable income in order to be a leader in Rotary. So your question is, have any other districts and clubs kind of addressed some of their barriers? And I think that it's incumbent on all of us to question what we've done in the past, and how is that preventing those who've traditionally not been either a member or had opportunities to leadership, how has it prevented them from attaining those roles? And what can we do differently? And that's the beauty of our organization right now. And even before the pandemic, the RI board, Rotary leadership, the secretariat at Rotary International have been looking at our governance model and what has been holding back some of us from serving as leaders. And, you know, in that great opportunity that we do get to 1.3 million members, can our current governance structures support new innovative club models? You know, our Rotary experience, maybe not just belonging to one club, but having a global membership and what that must look like. So, you know, we've been incrementally working towards change and change management in Rotary International. And then along came the pandemic, and some of that change that we've all been so hesitant to address, technology, using this Zoom platform that we've not only become so comfortable with, but even Zoom has increased its accessibility, adding closed captioning, adding breakout rooms, adding, so many different features to keep up. When we think about how far technology has come in 18 months, and really think about the change that we've seen in Rotary. And when I was district governor, I was all about talking about change. And when I put my hand up to be director is because I saw the change in Rotary International. And I'm really excited that we are broadening our scope, but we're also realizing that that scope and that regionalization view might be different in North America than it is in other parts of the world. In parts of the world, it's still very prestigious to be a Rotary member. And not to say that it's not prestigious in North America, but membership in organizations means something very different to the next generation. And that value proposition is so important. We're a leadership and a service organization, and we can't lose sight of that. And we need to follow through on the product that we're selling. And so I think, to answer your question, that was a long-winded answer, but I think that the barriers are put in place by ourselves. And we really need to put on a different set of glasses and look through the windshield of opportunities, and not necessarily, rely on what we've seen in the past. Although we need to honor our past, don't get me wrong, we wouldn't be here if we didn't have the past to guide us and our core values.
Thanks, Valarie. Our next question is in regard to climate change and global warming and how crucial the next 10 years will be. How can Rotary be more impactful and involved?
Well, I'm super excited that we've added the 7th area of focus with the environment. And I'm really excited to see, I know it's been, one of the sustainable components of a lot of our grant activity, but to see, activity directly related to our new area of focus is really exciting. And, I think that also we're seeing a lot of cause-based clubs that are around the environment, and it's an opportunity for us to pay attention. I don't complain, I don't, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not an environmental expert at all, but I think we can all watch the news every single day and see the impact of the storms and the fires and the flooding, and know that we can do something about it. I see there's some wonderful Rotarian magazines, the Rotary magazine, dedicated to a lot of amazing projects that are being done in our local communities. I was especially intrigued by the monarch butterfly, transition what's the word I'm looking for? I'm so sorry. The migratory path. Thank you. I think I read your mind there, Erin. The migratory paths of our butterflies, and just there's so much that we can do at a local level to make an impact and make a difference. It's really exciting when we actually can see the difference. And I was somewhere the other day, and somebody commented on a butterfly coming into their house, and that was the first time they'd seen a butterfly all season. And it just, it makes you kind of realize that we can do something, we can each contribute in a very small way, and make a difference. And I really am sorry that I wasn't able to have the 2 summits that we had planned last year, Life Below Water and Life on Land, really based on some of the environmental impact around the UN Sustainable Development Goals, one being in Anchorage, Alaska, to speak about life on land, and just, not necessarily related to Alaska, but certainly the impact on some of the villages and communities in Alaska that have had to relocate due to climate change. And then, of course, life below water and some of the impacts of our reef and the bleaching of the sun on our reefs and the pollution in the water, of course. So was very disappointed that I couldn't learn a lot more about that and work with our Rotary Action Group to really highlight and give us that call to action of the differences we could make.
Thanks, Valarie. There's a fly in my house. Just tickled my arm right as you were
Is
finishing
this not
up.
a butterfly?
Speaking of things in your house. The next question is, are there plans to invite Indigenous people to become Rotarians?
Oh, well, of course, I think that's all part of reaching out to our community. And I do know, so of course, we're in southwestern Ontario where we are, or northern US. I know a lot of our clubs in Quebec, in BC, are reaching out, have relationships with their Indigenous communities, are helping to support, are helping to learn from the Indigenous communities, and in turn are, of course, welcoming them to their Rotary clubs. I think it's a great way to be inclusive and to learn, and also continue on that path to reconciliation.
Great, thank you. So I have one final question, because you talked about how you've been kind of all over the place, and whether figuratively or literally. And you were making a comment about the woman handing you her baby, and it wasn't you, it was Rotary. And I am curious, in your observation, do you see a difference in how we as Rotarians in North America either are perceived or put ourselves out there versus other countries? And what would you, if you do, what would you suggest would be a remedy to making that a little more even?
Well, I think that in certain countries like India, service, if you listen to President Shaker, service is his mantra. And his mantra is service is the price he pays for, his place on earth. And I think we all have need in our community. And I think that, when we're in a country that we are really able to help out, like India, through blood banks, through eye clinics, through rehabilitation to polio survivors, there is a chance to elevate the status of Rotary and the service of Rotary, because it's right there in our community. But that's no different than our community. We have an opportunity to help with literacy, to help with rebuilding those businesses that during COVID have suffered. And I think sometimes we don't always advertise the good work. We don't always tell our story. We don't always get out there and really raise and fly our Rotary flag and talk about all the good things we do. And I really think, I quite often get the question, we used to have public relations grant from Rotary International, and that's no longer available. Why is it no longer available? And I really think, again, that your voice in your community, that personal reflection and contribution to your community, is what resonates with your community. So we really need to get out there and say, this is what Rotary did. We stepped up. This was the group we partnered with. This is how we made an impact in our community. And we need to start measuring those service hours, not just the dollars, not just standing with those large checks that show how much we gave to our community, but advertising how many hours we contributed, and that they're members of the community working in the businesses, small, medium, and large, or in that service organization that we're partnering with. Why not reach out and partner with the Lions or the Optimists or any other? We have a great relationship with Toastmasters. This is our opportunity to really highlight all the good we do. I think we just need to be more visible and be more we've got the amazing platform of our social media. Make sure that we are on our town's social media and always promoting Rotary and showing what we're doing. And of course, I just think, and I every time we wear our Rotary pin, I think that we open up that conversation, and we need to start talking about our personal stories. We talk about our 30-second elevator speech, but we need to move away from that. We are 1.2 million members. We're, one of the largest service organizations. We need to say we change lives, and Rotary has changed my life. It could change yours too, and it's changing the life of everyone in this community. And when we talk with that passion and that conviction, I just think that that's the best advertising we can give. but get out there and get on your radio station and have an opportunity to promote when you can. We need these good, true life, feel good stories more than ever, and it's our opportunity to do that.
Thanks, Valarie. I was going to ask you what would be the one thing you think that we as Rotarians should talk about when we speak to others about Rotary, but I think you answered that question. So that's great. Wonderful. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm thank you so much for all the work and commitment that you're doing to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm really proud of what the DEI task force has done and where we're going, and that the board unanimously approved the decisions we brought to the June board meeting. I think the more we can help support the conversations that are happening at the club and district level, the more our organization is going to look like the organization our children and our grandchildren want to be part of, that we will be that relevant offering that is so needed in our communities that will never go away. And real culture change comes from you. It comes from the clubs and districts that are reaching out to their communities. So thank you for everything you're doing. And if there's any way I can be of any further support in that way or any way, I'm really just happy to be with you. So thanks again, Erin, seriously.
Thank you, Valarie, on behalf of all of us. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing your stories. I always love to hear all of them. And thank you for all that you do for Rotary. We really appreciate you.
Thanks so
all right,
much.
Everyone, have a great week, and we will be talking soon. Bye.